began like no other case investigators in Quincy, Illinois had ever seen. A homicide, yes, but not on a dark street corner, not in some forgotten alley. This crime unfolded in the most intimate of places, someone's bathroom. The victim's name was Becky, and from the moment detectives walked into that small room and saw her lifeless body, they knew this was not random. She had been shot 14 times. One bullet missed. 15 rounds fired in total. The phone call that shattered her family's world came early. Becky's mother was hysterical, screaming words that seemed impossible to process. Becky is dead. Her sister Sarah was thousands of miles away, but in that instant, she says she could feel her world collapse. You don't expect a call like that. You don't expect your sibling to be gone. Becky was not just a nurse. She was a devoted mother of 3 young boys. Her friends and family describe her as selfless, radiant, and filled with kindness. She was made to be a mom, and yet someone had chased her into her own bathroom and executed her. The fear she must have felt in those final moments haunts everyone who knew her. The murder sent shockwaves through Quincy. This was a tight-knit, quiet community on the Mississippi River, the kind of place where violent crime is rare. But suddenly, people were locking doors, keeping exterior lights on, and wondering if a prowler was stalking their neighborhood. Within days, residents were reporting car break-ins and attempted home invasions. The community was rattled. Was there a killer on the loose? But detectives soon realized this wasn't random. Someone had kicked down Becky's door, chased her into the bathroom, and fired round after round until she was gone. Whoever did this had come with purpose. And as always in such cases, attention quickly turned to the person closest to her, her estranged husband, Tim. Becky and Tim's love story had started years earlier when they were students at Quincy University. She was beautiful, happy, and full of life. They eventually married, built a home, and welcomed 3 sons. Becky left her career in pharmaceutical sales to become a stay-at-home mom, while Tim worked in the recycling industry. From the outside, it looked picture perfect. But as the years went on, friends say cracks began to show. Becky confided in those close to her that Tim was controlling, manipulative, and unsupportive, especially when she decided to go back to school to become a nurse. She wanted a career. She wanted independence. But according to Becky's loved ones, Tim did not want her to have it. By 2021, their marriage was over. Tim filed for divorce, and what began as separation soon turned into bitter conflict. They battled over finances, the house, custody of their children. Court documents revealed that their fights were frequent and ugly. Becky texted friends saying that Tim had screamed at her face, shoved her in front of the kids, and thrown things in anger. She told one friend she believed he had serious mental health problems and was becoming increasingly unpredictable. Tim, on the other hand, claimed Becky was the one making life difficult, accusing him of things he says weren't true. He even sought an order of protection against her, presenting a video of a heated argument during a parent-teacher night. The court denied it. Later, Becky herself tried to secure protection, saying Tim entered her home without permission and continued to harass her. That order was denied as well, but the court did order Tim to return a 9mm handgun Becky had once gifted him. That weapon was never returned, and in February of 2023, Becky would be murdered with a 9mm. In the weeks leading up to her death, Becky confided to her sister that if anything happened to her, the number one person police should look at was Tim. It wasn't the first time she had said it. Friends later testified that she repeated this fear on multiple occasions. And then came the night of February 23rd, 2023. Investigators believe the killer Pride opened a second-story window using a patio chair to climb up to the children's room. From there, the intruder crept through the house, kicked open Becky's bedroom door, and forced her into the bathroom. At 1:11 a.m., Becky desperately tried to call 911. Her phone dialed, but was knocked from her hand before she could speak. Seconds later, the shooting began. Nothing was stolen. No valuables missing. Whoever came into that house came for Becky. The evidence left behind was chilling. 8 shell casings, a partial shoe print, and small fragments of plastic scattered near her body. Detectives didn't know it yet, but those tiny bits of plastic would later become central to the case. Next-door neighbors had surveillance cameras. At first, it looked like they hadn't captured anything on the night of the murder. But just days earlier, their cameras had recorded a figure walking near Becky's home in the middle of the night. First on Valentine's Day, then again the very next night. The person wore gloves, walked into Becky's driveway, then disappeared into the darkness. A short time later, the same figure was seen walking away. And in another video from across town, someone was caught on a bicycle in the area near Becky's home. Around the same times, Becky's neighbors spotted the prowler. No reflectors on the wheels. In Quincy, in the dead of winter, no one ride the bike at 1 a.m. The timing was too suspicious to ignore. When Becky's sister and brother-in-law were notified of her murder, they immediately told police the first person they suspected, Tim. They remembered Becky's warnings. And investigators soon discovered more troubling details. Less than a block from Tim's home, police recovered a blue bicycle with no-wheel reflectors. The same kind of bike caught on surveillance video the nights before the murder. Search warrants were executed at Tim's house. Detectives seized shoes, gloves, electronic devices, and more. Within days, Tim was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The story spread quickly. People remembered him from years earlier, when he had appeared with his family on a game show, answering questions and smiling for the cameras. Now he was behind bars, accused of executing the mother of his children. Tim maintained his innocence. He said he had his 3 sons at home with him the night of the murder. He insisted he could never harm Becky, and his attorney argued that there was no physical evidence directly tying him to the crime. No gun was ever recovered. None of his shoes matched the print at the scene. His DNA wasn't on the patio chair. At trial, the state presented the pieces of plastic found near Becky's body. They weren't just random debris. They were shreds from a plastic grocery bag. And when investigators searched Tim's home, they found stacks of the exact same brand of bag. Experts testified that DNA on one fragment was more likely than not linked to Tim. They also pointed to DNA under Becky's fingernails. Evidence, they argued, that she fought for her life. The results weren't conclusive, but prosecutors said they could not rule Tim out. Then came the crowbar. In Tim's basement, police found a tool that matched the type of marks left on the pried open window. While not conclusive, it was another piece of the puzzle. And then there were the searches on Tim's phone. How to make a homemade silencer. How to clean gunpowder off your hands. How to break into a house with a crowbar. Each one seemed to paint the picture of a man planning a crime. Even more damning, records showed that after Becky began dating someone new, Tim had searched that man's license plate and vehicle VIN more than 200 times. On Valentine's night, when that man's truck was parked in Becky's driveway, the prowler appeared on video. Within minutes, Tim was searching the man's information on his phone. And then came the ballistics. Shell casings recovered in Tim's home were analyzed by experts and found to have been fired from the same gun that killed Becky. Though the murder weapon itself was never found, prosecutors argued that the match was clear. The defense fought back. They reminded the jury that DNA on a grocery bag fragment wasn't definitive, that the bike found near Tim's home had no traceable DNA, that many people in town had the same kind of grocery bags. They argued that police had been too quick to zero in on Tim, ignoring the possibility of a prowler or another suspect. But after a 6-day trial, the jury returned its verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. Tim sat motionless as the words were read. For Becky's family, it was relief, but not celebration. Because as Sarah, her sister, said, the tragedy was twofold. 3 young boys had now lost both their parents in one act of violence. At sentencing, Sarah delivered a searing victim impact statement. She reminded Tim that while Becky's life had been stolen, his greatest crime was against his own children. They would carry the trauma forever. The judge did not hold back. He told Tim that the evidence showed a meticulously planned execution. that he had broken into Becky's house, cornered her, and fired again and again as she begged for her life. Then he handed down the maximum penalty, life in prison without parole. For prosecutors, it was accountability. For Becky's family, it was bittersweet. No sentence could bring her back. Today, Becky's 3 boys are being raised by her parents, surrounded by the love of extended family. Friends and loved ones have set up funds to support them. But the pain of her loss lingers, heavy and raw. What Becky's family wants most is for her story to serve as a warning. If someone says they are afraid of their partner, if they say they believe they're in danger, we must believe them. We must act before it's too late. Becky tried to warn people. She told her friends. She told her sister. She even told the court. And yet, here we are. She was a mother, a nurse, a sister, and a daughter. She deserved to grow old with her children, to see them graduate, to see them marry, to live a life filled with the love she gave so freely. Instead, her story ends in a bathroom on a cold February night. But her family hopes her legacy will be one of change, that people will listen, that others may be saved,